Hey, this is David Howard Thornton, Mr. Art the Clown himself, and you're listening to The Horror Geek.
Welcome to Horror Geekdom, the dungeon where we geek out on all things horror, thriller, suspense, and mystery. And this is episode 2. Ha 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 ha. 2 episodes. Okay. For those of you, watch Sesame Street back in the day, is that still in production? I'm pretty sure. So, anyway, well, thank you so much for stabbing that download button and listening in. Coming back. Oh, shit, you came back. That's, I need to put a little star on my refrigerator just for that. But, well, now, last episode was kind of easy. I was just kind of easing into the whole podcast stuff. And I had the interview that was done about a year and a half, 2 years ago with David Howard Thornton. Well, I think this time we were doing it proper, and because that last interview was done long before the COVID crap hit the fan. So this interview, I have David Howard Thornton back. But this one's done not even a month ago, so it's a lot recent. And I even brought in the director and writer of Terrifier and Terrifier2, Damien Leone. So we got a 2-for-1 package for you. So let's get to that more recent interview. And I tried my best. I tried my best to try to squeeze some spoilers out of them, but they were pretty tight-lipped. But I did my best. But they did give a little hints, little clues, little teasers. So it looks like this the sequel to Terrifier and the Story of Art the Clown is going to be even bigger, better, and bloodier. So let's go to that interview right now. And also, if you subscribe not only to the podcast, but also if you go to our YouTube channel, Horror Geekdom YouTube channel, you get to see the video of this interview. So you get to see my ugly mug as well as Damien and David's. So let's get into that right now, shall we? Yes. All right. Welcome, all my horror geeks out there in Horror Geekdom land. That sounds so good. But hey.
We are geeks. Yeah.
Horror Geek was already taken, so I just took the Horror Geekdom, and I just widened the breadth of my domain that way. So anyway, so we have coming back with us is David Howard Thornton, a.k.a. Art the Clown, and we did ourselves one better. We have the what do we call you first? Because you wear a lot of hats. Writer, director, editor, makeup artist, producer, and Jesus Christ on a stick. God.
I don't know, writer, director of Terrifier.
Okay, writer, director of Terrifier. Damien Leone. Is that? And I pronounced that right, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, good. Damn, I'm good. Okay. So, but, so we're going to not kind of rehash what we talked to David about in the last video. And for those of you who, as I hit my mic, that haven't seen that video, just if you're watching this video, chances are there's a video right next to it that has David's face on it, so you just go back and watch that. So there's
I'm sorry if it has my face on it.
Do you know how many subscribers I lost? I only had 18 at the time.
I'm so sorry.
But
blame my parents. Genetics.
But we have a much deeper thing just for David. So if you want to watch that, so we have first of all, just as far as Terrifier 2, what's the status of the movie right now? Has it all been shot, or is there some more things you need to go back and reshoot, or where is it in the can, so to speak?
So editing it currently. Almost finished with a rough cut. I posted this maybe like a week ago that I have an hour and a half cut so far, and I'm projecting it to come in at around 2 hours with what I know I have left to edit. And then we're going to take a look at it and see if there's anything that could be maybe a little better, or if we're missing a little insert here and there. So we'll probably need like 1 day, 2 tops of some inserts, which isn't going to affect the release of the film. I mean, we'll go shoot it and just plug those right in. And then it's really going to come down to just finding a distributor. And we're hoping to get it out around Halloween, because that would be absolutely ideal. But again, that really falls, that's really up to the distributors. So that's what we're hoping for, Halloween 2021.
Okay. Now, what kind of obstacles or loops do you need to jump through in order to get a distributor to pick it up?
Well, I mean, we'll present it to Dread Central, who put out the first Terrifier.
Okay.
See if they're interested. But we really want to get it on Netflix if possible. That would be amazing. That's everybody's goal now. So just getting through the doors to Netflix, Amazon, all those streaming
Shudder,
platforms.
yeah.
But it ultimately comes down to what makes the most sense financially, as well as many other things. But we'll see. There's a lot of different avenues to explore, especially I've been really thinking about if we can't strike a deal that we're comfortable with distributors. I was thinking about potentially taking it on the road and doing a Kevin Smith style road show and just setting up our own screenings, taking it across the country, doing a Q&A and really interacting with the fans and making it more of a big event that people would really, really appreciate. So it's still all up in the air.
Okay. Now, how has the whole COVID and quarantine and crap like that, how has that affected the filming or the progress of the film that you had to deal with?
Yeah, it set us back probably 5 months or so, maybe. Yeah, we definitely had to shut down. We were missing some scenes with actors who were very, very, rightfully so, afraid of the epidemic and didn't want to come out to shoot until they felt very safe, and all kinds of protocols were set in place. So we really had to just break and wait a while. But at the same time, I was able to really begin editing the film, so it wasn't like we weren't doing anything.
Okay,
and
cool.
there was always more prep to do. We still had some big effects scenes, so I was able to go and prep some effects in the meantime.
You even fleshed out scenes too that we were going to film, and we
Right.
went back and looked at them like, hey, we got the time, let's make these bigger.
Sure. So yeah, especially this one big kill scene that we're trying to not one up if we're lucky, but the hacksaw scene in the first one.
Right.
So we just started filming that, but nothing was really built for it. So we started, we filmed the opening of Art attacking his victim, but we really didn't get into the nitty gritty of the special effects until COVID hit. So over that break, I was building the effects, and then also just taking the time and thinking, how could I make this even crazier now? And we made it so much crazier. Thanks to COVID for that. So
COVID.
Hey, silver lining. Looking for silver linings everywhere.
Yeah.
But and that's one thing, because at this point now you already have the first movie under your belt, so you have that. You had that history, that thing going forward. So it's like, okay, the audience and the interest is already there. People are yelling for a sequel, and so what kind of pressure, or how did you deal with your I guess you call it your I guess regarding Terrifier, your sophomore movie, to do better and more of the same stuff, bigger, better, but not rehash all the old stuff and have So, what kind of obstacles or pressures do you have to come up with something better?
Yeah, that's a good question. Oh, there's certainly high expectations, especially with our hardcore fans. And again, we didn't want to just deliver the same movie. It could have been very easy for us to just have another straight out hour and 20-minute bloodbath of Art the Clown just going after another group of people. Easy peasy. Here it is. Just for diehard Art the Clown fans. But we took it so much further than I think anybody. We keep saying it, but I really don't think people could imagine like how different this movie is in terms of the scope and the storytelling. It's a way, way better crafted film. I took a lot of time with developing the characters, and the plot is a lot more intricate and involved. But at the same time, we don't want to scare away or push away the fan base that we attracted with the first one. So it's still very much that gritty slasher film. We made sure that that's all in there, not only just in there, like times 10, But yeah, it was that balancing act, but at the same time, really taking a lot of risks with characters, with story. Like I said, we don't like playing it safe. We take chances. We do things that not everybody's going to appreciate. Some people are going to love, but I mean, that's part of the fun, and that's how you grow, and that's how you make something interesting at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's definitely some controversial subject matter in this, but I think that's a good thing there.
Maybe a little.
Yeah. Some people go, "Whoa, wow, you guys," but that's what horror is about, though. Horror is supposed to push those boundaries like that. So I'm happy we've done that.
Yeah.
Do you think that's? Do you think you wouldn't be able to do that if some like big money studio got involved? Because it's like, well, they hold the purse strings, and so they're going to want certain things done. Versus doing it independently, you have a lot more freedom to push that envelope or do things out of that wouldn't normally be done.
Without a doubt, there's at least 2, probably 3 kill scenes that I know we would have to significantly cut back on the gore and what we show, just the relentless violence and how graphic it is. They would never let you do it in an R-rated movie. So that's one of the benefits of being low budget, and we don't have to have studio execs or anybody looking over our shoulders, worrying about budget or what kind of shenanigans, what kind of sanity we're shooting. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits. But there's a lot of drawbacks of being, although we have a much bigger budget this time compared to the first one, it's still a very, very low budget movie with a very small, just dedicated crew that made basically the impossible possible on this movie.
By far.
It's probably not going to, people, I don't think are going to realize until the smoke clears, like years down, and we can really start talking about the numbers and like what it really took to make this movie happen is pretty extraordinary. I couldn't be prouder of the people I was surrounded by making this movie. It's truly remarkable.
Especially when over this past year too. I mean, one of my favorite movies over the whole COVID deal is a movie called Host, where they just filmed the whole thing over a Zoom call. And it's basically a Zoom call where they have somebody organized a seance over a Zoom call, sort of like a party. Well, we're going to have a socially distanced party over Zoom, and we're going to call this psych again. We're going to have a seance, and it goes wrong. And the movie is only like maybe 50 minutes long, which oddly enough is about the time that a free Zoom session is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it was wild. I mean, they did it all over, the whole pandemic stuff. Each actor was responsible for their own special effects.
Yep.
But yeah, that was one of those movies where it's like they could take a very simple premise and not a whole lot of money, and the thing just blew up.
That's awesome.
That's good for us.
Didn't
Marcus?
He made something very similar to that?
Yeah, I'm in it.
There you go. Yeah.
We did something very similar. But I'm only in it for a little bit. They wrote me in. They're like, yeah, let's bring David into it. So they wrote a scene for me in it, which is really fun. But it's a film that we did exclusively over Zoom during the pandemic, and that's the thing. They got some people from the horror world involved in it as well. So it's a lot of people from Terrifier and some others. So it's really cool.
It's called Dark Offerings?
Yes, the Dark Offering.
Awesome. Yeah.
Dark Offerings.
That's great. I mean, that's cool when you see filmmakers, adjusting, to the situation and being creative and using that opportunity like the pandemic to make something that is very, very socially relevant with Zoom and all this. So I think that's brilliant. Very creative.
It just shows the power of artistry. It's just like it bad stuff's happening. Art always finds a way. No pun intended. So.
You already did. All right. Well, let me ask the boring questions to get out of the way. So, Damien, of course, a question I'm sure you're sick and tired of answering. That's another thing. When you guys go to these cons and everybody comes up and they're asking you questions, and it's like, do you feel like sometimes you just need to have a tape recorder and just hit play and say, "Here, listen to the answer"? I'm sick and tired of saying it. So anyway,
no, I don't really mind it as much because it might be. I might have been asked that same question several times, but there's always going to be at least one person listening that's their first time hearing that question. So they're going to be hearing the answer for their first time. So that's how I got to look at it.
It's a good point. It's a good perspective.
Yeah. All right. So Damien, here's the obligatory how'd you get started thing. I mean, from what I could tell, your first gigs was doing special makeup. Going back, I think, looks like your first movie was a movie called Love, or a short called Love.
Yeah, isn't that ironic?
And then you did a bucket, and then you added 2008. Looks like the Ninth Circle. You started taking on more hats, doing director and writer and stuff like that. So let's just start with the makeup stuff. What did you see, or how did you come to the point? It was like, yeah, I'm gonna mess around with a bunch of makeup stuff.
Yeah,
or special effects.
Is Dave could actually tell this story for me.
Oh, really?
He's heard the story.
Well, you could fill in.
He was born a poor black child in Mississippi.
I'll keep it very, very short and sweet. So I was influenced by makeup effects artist Tom Savini. I discovered this VHS tape called Scream Greats when I was a very little kid, and I was already a huge horror movie monster fan. Then when I saw someone actually creating the monsters, I was obsessed with that. So then when I got a little older, I actually started taking it seriously, and I started buying makeup kits and experimenting on my friends with liquid latex and wax. And then I got a hold of my buddy's camcorder, his father's camcorder, when we were like 11 or 12. And we just started messing around with the camera and filming a lot of these special effects. Especially, I started to figure out how to use blood pumps and stuff on dull weapons. So we was, slicing each other's throats and everything like that. So once we started doing that, freaking out the parents and whatnot, I really got obsessed with just filmmaking as a whole. And then I started just making my own little short films. After high school, I took one. I figured, you got to go to film school because I didn't know, I didn't want to do anything else with my life. So I took one class at the New School University in Manhattan, and it was just an introductory aesthetics of directing class. And it was just so not for me. You know, looking back, I was just very immature. I couldn't really grasp, or I wasn't interested in the foreign movies they were showing and all these old movies and old techniques. It just wasn't what I was into at that time. But that teacher is the guy who went on to direct that movie Love. And he remembered one of my short films in the class that I just packed out with special effects. It was two guys just knife fighting and blood spraying everywhere. So he called me like a year after I was done with that class, and he was like, "Do you still do those effects?" He's like, "I'm making a movie. I got some blood in it." So that was my first sort of official gig as a makeup effects artist. But I always just wanted to go on my own trajectory and make my own short films, and that was, eventually I had to just make my calling card short film, which was The Ninth Circle. That was the first introduction to Art the Clown. It all started there.
Okay. All right. Now, how do you, with all the different obligations and responsibilities that you have, how do you delineate between one function to another? I mean, are you able to like switch from one thing to another, or it's like, okay, I'm a director now, I got to focus on this, or I'm editing now, I got to have this mindset. So how do you keep all that straight?
Well, the hardest thing, I mean, it's easy when it's time to write. I mean, that's all I'm focusing on. So that's easy. The same thing with editing. But when I'm directing, I also have to do the special effects, and that's very difficult. Mainly because of just the time that it takes and the toll it takes. When I have to make up Dave, it's like 3 hours before we start shooting. So I have to be, him and I have to be the first ones there. Then you have to go into a 12 to, God knows, 14-hour day. Yeah. Relying.
And then we got to take it off, and then he's got to make the makeup for the next day too.
Yeah.
So,
oh God.
Yeah, so that's brutal. It's hard enough to just direct a movie, but then when you have to do all these special effects and like chopping heads off in the middle of the day, it takes a toll.
And sometimes he has to just stop directing because like my makeup just starts coming apart, and then he's got, I call it taking me to triage. Yeah. So it's like, okay, we got to stop. We got to go fix him back up again, and
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it. It's just like,
well, you don't have a choice, right?
You don't.
You just got to do it.
But how you do it and you keep your sanity, like, well, you externally keep your sanity. I don't know what's going on inside. I think you're probably inside going,
Whenever I disappear, I'm in a dark corner screaming.
Yeah. Just hand over your face. Okay, roll again. That looked great. Okay, do it again.
Now, are there any other? And this could go to both of you. Are there any other projects that you guys would like to do?
Oh, plenty.
Either within horror or outside of horror.
Sure. I want to make a big epic George Romero-esque zombie film. That's like my dream project. But I would transition into more thrillers. I would like to do something like that at some point. I mean, everything I do would sort of be dark and gritty and violent, I'm sure. Like a Martin Scorsese or a David Cronenberg type film. Yeah. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, well, I think like the most obvious one is like I really want to tackle the Joker and do it like the comic book. So I would really love to play him like a TV series or something like that. More than a movie series. I'd rather do it a TV series so I had more time with the character to develop him and flesh him out and all that fun stuff. But other than that, I mean, I would, because comedy's always been my thing. I would really love to do some more comedy. Go back and maybe do a sitcom or something like that one day, or who knows. It's just like keep my options open that way too. So. But it's like I'm just happy to work. That's how I look at it. It's just as long as a role is fun and there's something I can do with it, I don't mind what genre it's in. It's I'm just happy to work and lucky to be able to do it.
All right. Now, Damien, maybe you did in Terrifier. I don't know, but are you going to pull one of these? Stan Lee things or Alfred Hitchcock things and do like a little quick. I mean, you played you played a demon in some movie that you did.
Yeah, but
anyway, so
I was cloaked and in a mask, so you would have never known it was me.
Okay, but yeah, do you think you'd want to like add another hat to yours to your head and maybe like step in front of the camera, even like for 20 seconds to do like a little Easter egg?
I am actually in Terrifier 2, but it's a bit of a Where's Waldo type of thing. Yeah. So
really?
I'm going to let the fans look for me.
If anybody figures it out, I'm going to be very impressed.
Right? I know. So the funny thing is that I'm sort of prominent, but you would not know it's me, if that makes sense. That's about all I can say.
Yeah. Okay. But I didn't even know. And they're all like, do you see where Damien is? I'm like, no. I felt so stupid. I was like, that's brilliant.
That's all thanks to Olga, our production designer, by the way.
Yeah. I love it. That's going to be a fun thing to add on the extras in the commentary. It's like, guess what that is?
Yeah.
So is there any plans to making Terrifier a trilogy and have a third one come out and doing like this is the story arc of Art?
Yeah, there is. I've said that already. That I would like to do a solid trilogy with just a nice beginning, middle, and end. Years down the line, if people really are clamoring for more Art the Clown, we'll think about bringing him out. But I'm just a little afraid of running out of ideas and it getting stale and jumping the shark and just falling into that trap that a lot of these franchises fall into. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the franchises that go up to 10. I'll watch a part 8. When we finish this podcast here. But yeah, it's just one of those things where right now I'm just at that age where I'm just focusing more on just the artistic integrity aspect of it. But who knows where I'm going to be in 10 years, so we'll see.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, part 3 is very, very likely going to happen. I already have ideas for the beginning, the end, lots of ideas throughout the whole movie. It's just really about piecing it all together. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if it's kind of, I don't know if it's sensitive information or whatever, but I didn't read through all of it, but you had put out a statement. Evidently, there were some vendors and stuff putting out some unofficial, crack products and stuff like that. So, and I just saw today that Trick or Treat Studios is announced Terrifier figures, Art the Clown figures, and stuff like that. So, now, I just want to establish right now, Trick or Treat Studios, is that an official licensed?
Yes,
they have permission to use the okay.
Yeah, that's our first. I mean, that's a big deal. It's exciting. We've been waiting for this for a long time. It's our first official action figure, and it looks absolutely gorgeous.
I'm stoked. That's like childhood dream of mine, is to have my own action figure.
What is that like? I mean, is it to
I'm almost literally beside myself when I can actually hold it up and I can actually be beside myself. I'm like, ah! Yeah. I'm such a big geek, so I love that kind of stuff. So I'm like, this is literally something has been a goal of mine since I don't know how long. But I was like, I want to have an action figure one day of myself.
I don't know. Like Dave, it's a question we get asked a lot because people throw around the word icon so much, and Art's up there with the classic slashers. Like, does it ever really sink in? Because it absolutely does not.
No.
It's like you still just gotta go to work.
God, I still deal with the same insecurities I dealt with before all this came out. I'm still like I'm still myself in that regard.
Right. Yeah. So it's amazing, and it really is a dream come true. And you really have to keep reminding yourself and not take any of that for granted. It's insane. But yeah, especially like we're really, really grateful for the fan base. Like our fans are so supportive. It's ridiculous. So that's one of the reasons why we're taking so much time with the sequel and put so much into it is just like to really not let them down and really just show them what we can do. So
yeah, it's made by the fans for the fans.
Yeah,
literally.
It really,
every definition of the word.
Yeah. And I think because I know with like sci-fi and fantasy and even horror, for a movie that has like a long franchise life to it, like the Freddy's and Jasons and stuff like that. When they're coming out with more movies, I mean the fan base of that universe is pretty sharp. They're pretty smart. They know the lore. They know all the backstories and stuff like that. So, if you throw something cheap ass at them or just phone it in, they're gonna notice and they're gonna say something about it. But
definitely
with Art the Clown, now I already told Dave one of my theories of how Art the Clown came. He didn't deny it. He didn't confirm it. But the thing is, this new character here that we, by the end of the Terrifier movie, we didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, is this a person? Is this now we got some kind of supernatural thing going on? It's like, so do you have that freedom of, okay, this is relatively a new character here, so there's a lot of unknowns about this person. We could create it as we go along, and it's you don't. I would think that you don't have to worry about that much of a backlash of somebody saying, "Oh, that's stupid. They shouldn't have done that." Or I'm sure there'll be people that.
There will be. There are.
There's always going to be that.
Yeah.
There's always, you're never gonna make 100% of the people happy. Especially when it comes to like stuff that theories and stuff, because everybody's got their own theories in their head, and a lot of people think their theory is the best. So anything that's going to be offered that's not their theory, they're going to hate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was a decision to just jump right in and make him supernatural. I just wanted to like just jump the gun in that regard and get right to it, because that's always the inevitability typically with your slashers. At some point they officially become supernatural. And the reason for that is because if you're going to keep making multiple movies and you're going to put them in these extreme situations, there's no way that they're going to survive physically. You're not going to be able to take these gunshots and these stab wounds and all that, and the audience is not going to buy it. So like, let's get that out of the way. Let's make him supernatural. But let's not just sort of, let's really dig into that now. Like, let's not, we're not going to cheat you. It's like, let's really make that a point of the movie now. The whole movie revolves around this supernatural element. There's like this big fantasy supernatural element in Terrifier 2 that was not in the first one. That's one of the biggest differences. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Again, we take it in some really interesting new directions where we're taking some gambles, but at the same time, we know what the fans really like. And what I really liked about Art the Clown was the ambiguity of the character. And I like not knowing what he's about and what's necessarily driving him and who he was before he put on the clown makeup. I think if you expose too much of that, you're pulling the curtain back. You don't really want it. Once you see the wizard, it's over. So we have to just be very careful with how we tread. With that. So.
All right. Now, have you ever thought of a kill or an idea or something, a special effect that was like, oh, this would be really cool to do this, and then when it comes time to plan it or put it together, it's like it's either too dangerous or too convoluted or complicated to fit the budget? Or did you ever outthink, in a sense, outthink your creativity, outthink the logistics of what you're able to do?
I would say the crazy thing is that when I wrote Terrifier 2, I did not think about a budget. I just wrote for the moon. Okay, whatever crazy idea I had, I wrote. And then we started shopping it around to production companies, because this wasn't like the first one, where the first one literally cost us like $35,000 to make. All right, this is a much bigger movie. We were looking for like $1 million to make this movie. We got it in the hands of one company that was willing to make it for around $750,000. But we had make some serious changes, some compromises. Like we had to shoot the movie in a very, very short amount of time, like 20 days with like 5 days just for pickups. I mean, just to give you an idea of how crazy that is, we're going into like day 65 of like how many days it took us to shoot Terrifier 2. So then, as you know, we had to go and we declined that, obviously, and we had to go and now go right to the fans and try and raise money. And we were going to just totally rethink this, make it for much cheaper. We raised the 200 and change through Indiegogo from the fans. But my point of this whole story is like all those insane things that we thought we would, there's just no way we could possibly shoot them. We'd have to just cut everything out. We put everything into the movie. We managed to film every crazy, inconceivable thing, which is wild. Like I said, when you see the movie and you find out down the road exactly how much money we had, it's just going to blow people's minds. But that's like the ingenuity of the people I surrounded myself with. Like whenever there was an obstacle that seemed like it was just impossible to pull off, or an effect, or a set, like that's another thing. We built crazy sets in this film without set builders. I mean, these are just people, we came together. It's like, we have to build this and we'll do it ourselves. Like we built everything ourselves. So it's just wanting it bad enough, surrounding yourself with artistic people, and then just doing it. And that's really what we did. Like we didn't take no for an answer. So I'll forever be blessed with knowing that I got to make the exact script that I wrote, which is incredible.
Yeah. You bring up a good point as far as just the length and how much time and effort being put into stuff. And is, again, for both of you, how are you able to keep it fresh when it's like the same, like, for example, Damien, when you're in the editing room, how do you keep that vision sharp and fresh in your mind when you're just looking at the same scene over and over and over again? Or David, you're in that damn makeup chair, and you got to get in the headspace of Art the Clown. How do you two keep that love of the craft on fire and sharp amidst all the mundane things that you have to go through? And the length of time you have to do it.
Yeah,
Dave, that's a good question. What, like?
Yeah. Well, for myself, I just like, I goof around a lot on set. I just have fun, so that's how I just keep things fresh for myself. And Damien gives me a lot of freedom when we're doing certain scenes to just play anyway. So that really helps keep it fresh too. And Damien's also one of those type of directors where he's willing to hear other people's ideas. So sometimes someone will come up with an idea that the two of us don't even think of, and we're like, hey, why don't we try that? So that kind of stuff keeps it fresh for me. Yeah, I like that. It's just also a fun group of people to hang out with. I mean, we will have days where it's like back-to-back days where, it's like basically we're going off of 3 hours, 4 hours of sleep, and we're still having fun, as tired and as miserable we are at times, but we're still finding ways to just keep it fun on set. And I think that's part of what makes it work. You can tell when you watch the film that we had fun making it.
Well, it's never stale for me when we're filming because it's so intense. I mean, there's no time for it to get stale for me. I mean, Jesus, It's just constant problem solving, and there's always something directing a movie.
I sit there and wait.
Yeah, the actors get to sit around a little bit, but what I personally love editing. I mean, I really love working with the actors and the crew. That's amazing, but there is so much stress there. So there's an aspect of editing which I really love, and where there's really no time and there's nobody looking over my shoulder, and I could just see the movie now actually start to take shape, and seeing that illusion come together. That's where you really get that, for me anyway, that joy of actually just seeing what you created. I get to, as a movie fan, you get to actually watch the movie now. So that doesn't really get stale either. But what can happen is you can become you can get tunnel vision, and you can sort of lose sight of what you're doing because you're looking at the footage over and over. And am I choosing the best takes? There's an infinite way to cut these scenes. So what I constantly do is send the scenes, because I have no patience either. So I'll edit it super rough and I'll send it to Dave. I'll send it to my producer, Phil, to the actresses. I'm always sending it to Lauren, and I want to get feedback. You know, do you think this scene's working? Where's it? You know, so I love getting feedback, and I love sending clips to them and getting a fresh perspective from them to see, because I got to step outside of the box, outside of my little bubble, and see if what I'm doing is, you know, if I'm going down the correct road. So I just sent Dave a scene last night, or 2 nights ago. Yeah. Always sending him stuff.
Yeah, there was a scene I wasn't even in, so I really enjoyed watching it, because it's like, I haven't seen this part of the film yet, so this is like really cool. And it's a good scene too. Was
that part of your critique? This scene is good, but it doesn't have me in it.
No. Yeah. I said, it's great. And I think it's probably one of the more important scenes from a plot standpoint in the film too. So it was really nice seeing that all fleshed out in some really cool ways. So I was like, there were some things I didn't even expect in that scene to see, and I was like, this is so awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. It's coming out really, really good. I'm really happy with it. The performances are fantastic. There's really, really great performances in this movie from the other actors. There's a nice dramatic element to this film. It's again, it's not just a straight slasher movie. So you really follow this family dynamic, this mother, daughter, and son throughout the entire film. So there's a lot of interesting stuff in there.
Mm-hmm. Now, how old? And I forget, I don't know his name, but the young
Elliot.
Elliot, is that his name?
Yes.
Okay.
Elliot, he's crucial part of this film, major character throughout the entire film. Were you going to ask how old he is?
I was going to ask how he took to the film, and is he a horror fan, or did you have to do sort of like almost like keep your don't look around too much, you know.
No, proud horror fan. Him and his family, his father Justin, they're amazing. Couldn't have asked for better people to work with. Just more committed, just psyched for the project. They actually happened to be fans of Terrifier before they even auditioned for the film. So they were just so into it, which was huge. Yeah. This is a really demanding physical and emotional role that he played. Not easy, especially I think this was his first sort of starring role. I mean, he's virtually a star of this film. So it was just a lot of work. Again, very demanding part. He has a lot of interactions with art.
So especially for someone that age, that's a lot for them to have to, handle as an actor. I mean, I know actors in their 20s that can't even handle some of that stuff that he was having to handle.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't really care about kids in these films. I mean, so if you put him, you could imagine some of the stuff he probably has to deal with in these scenes with Art the Clown. They're very intense. So. Yeah, it was cool, but he did such a great job.
Totally committed to it. I was more worried about him than he was worried about things. I was always like, I don't want to hurt him. And his dad's like, go ahead, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming higher body count on Terrifier 2.
Yeah, it is.
And I get the impression from at least the I guess the second trailer it was that okay, so my understanding is it happens like immediately after the first movie, so it's still like Halloween night.
Mm-hmm.
And you got one lady dressed up as an angel, but I get the impression from the trailer that Art has this nemesis that he has to fight. So you almost got like an epic battle of the gods here.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So that's the character Sienna, and she is the star of the film. It's really about her journey, and sort of whereas Terrifier 1 was a showcase for the villain, this is really the birth of our protagonist now. So
and there's no relationship between her and any characters from the first one. It's just that the main common denominator is Art.
Yeah. So Elliot and Lauren, the characters Sienna and Jonathan, they live in the same town where the murders of the first film took place. So I'm pretty sure I gave this information out already, but the way this movie is structured is it starts as a direct continuation of part one. So we're in that world for a little bit, and then we jump ahead a year later, and that's where we meet Sienna and Jonathan.
Oh, okay.
It happens the same day as basically the same day as the whole thing with where at the end of the movie actually at the beginning of Terrifier where even I
get confused with the wraparound.
Yeah, it's the wraparound.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a year later, and this entity that I talk about, that is what's responsible for resurrecting Art the Clown, guides Art and drives him toward these siblings on a mission that, that's the part where I really can't go into the details of why he's specifically targeting them two. But it's really about them discovering what role they play in this Terrifier world as the people around them and they themselves are in extreme jeopardy on this Halloween 1 year after the first Halloween, which is Terrifier.
Okay. Yeah. Is it one of these situations like Game of Thrones where, you don't want to like get too attached to any of the characters because they're just going to get offed by the end of the movie? Is somebody going to survive? You don't have to tell us who, but is somebody going to... Well, I'm sure Art's going to survive. Otherwise, there won't be a third movie. But so the good people...
Well, here's the thing. There could very well be a part 3. But this movie could also end and stay on its own. So I will say that. So nobody is safe, including Art, including Sienna, Jonathan. And that's one of the things that we set up in the first Terrifier by him killing off Jenna, who you thought was going to be your lead protagonist.
Yeah, she was killed halfway through.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not even that.
Yeah. So I consciously pulled a Janet Leigh psycho on the audience because, again, that hadn't been done in quite some time. It was fresh. And it also, I wanted the audience to never feel comfortable. And you could always tell right away if like, oh, this is my hero. We feel very safe with her. No matter what happens, we're going to be, we'll see her at the end. And I didn't want that to be the case in the first Terrifier, and that's certainly not the case now. So you're not going to know what's coming, who's going till the credits roll.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry to say.
Oh well. Well, that's all for my questions, but I often because I'm kind of half lazy, I put out a little feeler out on social media and ask people if they have any questions that they would like to ask, and got a few. Let's see here. Actually, this one plays right off of what you were just saying, Damon. From John Richard, he says, "What's your approach to making horror films that surpass old tropes or overused scares?"
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. How do you keep it fresh? It's that tricky balancing act of, recreating to a degree everything that we as fans completely love and just want to see more of, and straying just far enough away from that where it comes out fresh, but you don't lose that audience. So that's sort of a game I'm constantly playing with myself, and challenges I'm always, facing. Like The Gun is a perfect example. Trying something new that you hadn't really seen in a slasher film before. I mean, slashers have used guns very rarely, but not a slasher like Freddy or Michael Myers or Jason. So I remember, and Art the Clown has used the gun before Terrifier in the short film. So I had this idea for a long time, and I was just like, because personally I'm terrified of guns, and they're more relevant than anything else. So it's like, how can I make a gun scary in the hands of the slasher? I think it's possible. So it was just a challenge to myself, and and once we decided to do it, and I gave Art the gun, it was like, well, now that he's got a gun, let's have him use it in the most sadistic way, where he doesn't just shoot the person once. He keeps making her suffer, and he's shooting her in the leg, and then he's shooting her in the hip, and then, doing everything he can until he finally does decide to off her. And then even after he does that, he takes it a step further, and he just completely mutilates, what's left of her face in typical sadistic Art the Clown fashion. And when that scene happened, it was an insane reaction that I'd never, when I saw that for the first time in a theater, people were cheering. I mean, cheering so loud that Jenna was finally beating the shit out of Art with the 2x4. And I loved it. And I was like, wow, it was like the first time where I ever created a heroic moment, because I'm really all about just the villain and the slasher. And it felt great. And then when he pulled out the gun and shot her, it was like you literally saw the dial just turn, and you heard everybody cheer and just go to these screams and boos and laughter, and it was just like people didn't know how to take it. So that was wild, and again, it was just shifting the movie back into the corner of the villain, and it's like, well, this is Art's movie. You're not safe. You're not safe with this character. He's very unfair and unforgiving. And yeah, I mean, and that's a motif that we keep true to that part of him throughout.
I always consider that be like the Willy Wonka moment for Art was with the gun, because like when what I mean is like if you've seen like the original Gene Wilder Charlie and Chocolate Factory, is when he comes out and he's hobbling out in the cane and he falls down and rolls and comes up and he's totally fine. And Gene Wilder fought for that moment in the movie because he wanted the audience to feel that they could never know what to expect from him from then on out.
Yeah.
And that's what this moment does for Art. It's just like, okay, wow, anybody can die. He could do anything. You just don't know what he's going to pull out of his bag of tricks.
That's brilliant too, and it played in Willy Wonka. I mean, it plays out till the very, very end, where he's at, mentally. Yeah, it's brilliant. I love that.
Oh, I love that too. No, I'm so glad he fought for that moment.
Yeah.
I have a cat trying to make an appearance. Hey, kitty.
Oh, cat. Hi, cat.
Hey, kitty. You're on camera.
Hi, cat.
Hey.
Hey, my views just went up 30%.
I know, it's just amazing.
You put a cat on a video,
and then there you go. hey, sweetie. Okay, everybody loves you. They don't want to see your butt. Okay. Hey, girl. All right. All right. You try to teach them not to do this. They're like kids. They're just, I'm gonna do what I want.
Pay attention to me.
Yeah, exactly.
From someone named Matt O.D. and also Apple Chef came up with pretty much the same. A lot of these people came up with very similar questions. So, what movies inspired you, as well as how did the whole idea of Art the Clown come about, or how was it created?
Yeah. So when I decided to make my first short film, which was called The Ninth Circle, again, I was at a film school, and it's like, well, how do you become a filmmaker now? How do you break into the industry? And everybody says, you have to, at that time anyway, it's like you have to make a short film and start shopping it around, like get it in front of people, get it into film festivals. Hopefully you get discovered. I mean, that's basically it. And this is like 2005, 6. I mean, this is before YouTube is what it is now. So it was really like an old school way of sort of doing it. Now you throw it on YouTube or something. So it was like, what kind of skill sets do I have that I could pack into this short, make it effective, play to my strengths? So it was, let's pack it out with as much special effects as I could. Let's get some creatures in there, like all these things that I love that I find creepy. And one of them was a clown. I always thought there was something creepy I could do with a clown that I hadn't quite seen before. And I always had this idea of a clown terrorizing a woman on a city bus in the middle of the night. I don't know where the idea came from, but I just thought it was creepy. Just to be on a bus alone, and all of a sudden this clown just gets on, sits across from you, and just starts staring at you. Like, starts very, very simple, very eerie, not incredibly threatening. It just starts more weird and freaky. But then it starts progressively getting more threatening. And, you know, he's making her more and more uncomfortable, and then he's getting closer to her, and he starts, like, pulling out a horn, starts honking it. Just everything just starts getting more and more intense until he becomes a physical threat, and he pulls out a needle, and he's trying to inject her. So it was like, yeah, let's throw that in there. That's a good way for it to start. So it's just this clown abducts this woman, injects her. She wakes up in the hands of this cult of demons. So I showed that to people, and everybody thought it was cool. They liked it. They liked the demons, but everybody unanimously talked about Art the Clown. They were like, yeah, this is cool, but what is up with that clown? Like, he's cool. Like, he looks great. You got to do more stuff with him. And I got that note so many times. So I'm like, oh, all right, you know, I think he looks cool too. Yeah, let's play off of that and see where he can go. So the logical thing was to make another short film that focused solely on Art the Clown. But now, since it was his show, I said, let's turn him into a slasher now, and show more of what he's capable of doing. I mean, in that regard, like, he's a combination of all the slashers, like a little bit of everyone that I love, taking all my favorite elements from them and boiling them together into a clown, the exterior, you know, the interior of a clown. And as far as his exterior goes, I knew I wanted him to be as far away from Tim Curry's Pennywise as possible. So if you go, you know, side by side, they're vastly different in terms of their color scheme, their mannerisms, you know, who speaks, you know, who doesn't, who uses weapons, you know, back and forth. They're very different. So I have a lot to thank Tim Curry's Pennywise for why Art the Clown is visually successful. Just trying to be different, because I don't want to step on his toes. It's another one of those things. If you're going to do it, you know, add something fresh to it. Yeah. That's pretty much how I came up with him. Yeah, it wasn't like this immediate light bulb moment. It took a while to really just mold him into what he was. Like, it started with that idea, and then it turned into, well, what does he look like? And then it turned into, let's make him into a slasher. And now that he's a slasher, let's make him a fresh slasher. So it took a while of discovering, and I'm still discovering who he is. You know, it's like he's still this bit of an enigma, and I kind of want to keep him that way to a degree, but I also want to start fleshing him out just a little bit. So that's where we are.
So it was your original intention of shopping around your short to make a movie about the satanic cult, and everybody wanted? Was that the original idea of what you wanted to do, and then everybody just they didn't want to hear about that? They wanted to hear about the clown.
I didn't want to. It wasn't so much like I wanted to turn that short into a feature or anything like that. I don't even remember why I chose that subject matter of the cult. I mean, I was always a huge fan, still am, like a huge fan of Rosemary's Baby, and I love demonic imagery. That was probably the reason, things like that. But yeah, it was just it was really just a showcase for me as a filmmaker and a special effects artist.
All right.
So. Yeah. But then what happened was I put both of those shorts. So I made that, and then I made the Terrifier short film a couple of years later. And I just threw them on. You know, I put them into some festivals. They got some notoriety, but nothing crazy. And then I just threw them on YouTube, because now it was around 2011 by the time I finished that second short film. So now YouTube was more popular, and it started getting a lot of hits, especially the Terrifier short. And this indie producer, which is the producer Jesse Baget, who went on to make All Hallows Eve, was just looking through YouTube for short films revolving around Halloween that were already made that he could just put into a horror anthology. And he stumbled upon Terrifier, loved Art the Clown, was like, I want to put this guy on the poster of the film. You know, what do you think about making this movie? And he originally wanted to make it with other filmmakers, you know, each doing their own short. And I talked him into letting it be me with, you know, I could make the entire movie. You know, if he gave me a little more money, I could flesh it out, make a wraparound story, whatnot. And And that was it. It all started there. So that was never where I wanted Art the Clown to go. I never intended him to be in All Hallows Eve, this weird anthology movie with a possessed VHS tape. But that was the opportunity for me as a struggling filmmaker at the time. It was the first time I was going to get my movie on DVD and in stores. You know, it was in Walmart. So I was like, oh, this is great. Why not? Let's do this. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a battle and it's been a long road to get to where we are now with Terrifier, to find someone to give me money to make the movie I actually wanted to make, which was Terrifier. Nothing was easy. Very long road to get to where we are now. Always struggling.
David, what about you as far as fleshing out the character of Art? And do you think how much more of Art is there that you suspect may be even unknown by you, that you haven't discovered yet?
Oh, yeah. I think, especially if we delve a little bit more into his backstory, I think there's some interesting things we could explore there and stuff like that. But I mean, I just think he's one of these characters that's got infinite possibilities anyway, because he's kind of a very Freddy Krueger-ish type of character. He's very inventive. He's not like this, this very one-note type of killer type of guy. He's one of these guys that makes use of everything in his environment in fun, creative ways, and that's what I like about him. He's very playful, and so there's always ways to keep that fresh. There's always and that's how it is even on set. Well, there's some scenes that Damien specifically wrote where he's just like, we're just going to see what we do once we actually get on set, see what we have to work with in the environment, and I love that. It was like, oh, cool. And so it helped. Again, kept things fresh because I was like, I'm just going to experiment and see what I have around me to play with. And there's especially one scene in particular in Terrifier 2 I got to do a lot of that with, and I think that was a very fun night for me at least. I think maybe for everybody else there too. But and I love those kind of things. That's what I love about the character. He's playful. He likes to play with his food, I like to say as well. So,
all right.
Yeah, the one thing I say about the character is that I'm sure of is that I'm never going to turn him into a victim. Because I think the minute you do that to your villain, I mean, that works a lot with a lot of villains. But I never want the audience to sympathize with Art the Clown. So that's the one thing that I know for a fact I'm gonna keep.
Okay. So we're not going to touch on Art's abusive parents or anything like that, right?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Paula Gepson asked, was Terrifier 2 as fun as the first movie to make?
Oh, yeah. I think I even had more fun on this one. Because this one I was also more confident in myself with the character. I was, because like Terrifier 1, I was really coming in fresh with like, okay, Damien and I were kind of developing a lot as we went along with Terrifier 1. Terrifier 2, I was like, okay, I know who Art is now. And so I had a lot more confidence, but it was just like Terrifier 2 is bigger too. So it's not all basically taking place in one location. So I get to go to different locations and deal with different environments, and that just made it even more fun. Especially one environment in the movie actually 2 environments in the movie I had a lot of fun in. Even though the locations themselves might not have been fun locations to film in, the concept around what we were doing was a lot of crazy fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun scenes, a lot of interesting sets and environments. For me, it was harder, a lot harder. But I mean, we were surrounded by so many awesome, funny, great people, so that always helps. But it was definitely the hardest thing. Forget not just movie. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life in terms of work.
But ironically enough, the scene that we thought was going to be the hardest scene and the most brutal, grueling thing to get through ended up being one of the most fun weeks we had on set too. And everything just flowed so well that week. We're like, wow.
The most people, the most actors, huge stunts, fire, lots of crazy things going on. And it went very smooth, which was thankfully. Yeah.
And it was right before the pandemic too, so it's like that was like this almost kind of like a last hurrah before the world went insane.
Right.
And from Cricket Weasel, open it up to both movies, but if you can't go into detail because of if it's in Terrifier 2, but she wants to know your favorite scene to film.
Oh, part one, the pizzeria scene.
Yep, same here.
The pizzeria. Okay.
Yeah.
I just think it's a fun scene because it's not only was it fun to film because we were inside with heat and running water and all that kind of stuff, but it was a fun scene in itself because we had a bathroom. It was great. But it also shows off every facet of the character. A lot of movies, you have to have some kind of exposition for the character to understand him. You just have that scene there, and it explains everything you know about the character. You see every aspect. You see his playful side. You see his sinister side. You see his creepy side. It's just, I love that scene.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. We got to showcase his personality there. Whereas, because I knew the rest of the movie is going to be, the slash and stalk, and it's like we have to set up this character. There's a lot more to him. He's a lot more interesting than that. So that was the perfect scene to set up that and building that suspense was very fun. And the actresses were fantastic in that scene. It was great seeing them play off of art. So
yeah.
Very fun.
Yeah. It was like Catherine was the one that even came up with the whole thing where like she just took the hat off my head and slapped me in the face. I was like, and then booped me in the nose. I was like, oh my God, I love you doing this because it gives me some ideas to do later on. And it was just like, this is great.
Yeah.
All right. And then Scotty McCabe said, ask David to do his Roger Rabbit impersonation.
Hey, Hetty.
Nice.
Now, if you go back and watch the other video, I had it must have been 15 or 20 that I had a list, and I just ran down the list, and I'm sorry if I put your throat through all this stuff, but he hit every one of those impersonations real quick. It was really good.
He's tired of them by now.
That's what you're born to do, man. You love it.
All right. Aaron Coughlin asked, what was the most challenging scene to film?
Oh, God.
The
hacksaw scene.
The hacksaw?
Yeah.
It's just dangerous. It was so dangerous. And it was cold and miserable for Catherine. That's the thing. We're also worried about Catherine in that scene. That was the one night there wasn't a lot of playing around or anything like that because it was a very serious thing that we were having to do with her because it's dangerous to hang a human being upside down like that. And it was a very stressful night in that regard.
Yeah. But none of it because of her. Like she didn't add to that stress or anything personally. She was
right.
You couldn't ask for a better person to work with.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm.
We say it all the time that she's the MVP. That scene does not exist without her. I mean, there's no trickery. I mean, she's really there hanging by her ankles, shackled in that horrible environment. That's not a set. That's a real freezing cold, half broken down building in the middle, the middle of the winter. Yeah. Horrible environment. Wow. She knew when she read the script and she got the part, she knew that was the scene. We all knew that was going to be the scene people talked about if we pulled it off right. And I had coffee with her when before we started shooting it, a week before. I went to meet her just to talk about it, and she was like, "Yeah," she's like, "This is the scene. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. I want to make sure this is the coolest thing. This is the coolest kill scene anybody's ever seen." And that's exactly what you want to hear from the actor. I mean, I was like, oh my God, thank God, this is amazing. But then I've heard that before, and then when it comes time to do it, they turn into a completely different person. She was just so dedicated and amazing the entire way. That was one of the gifts of Terrifier 1 and 2 is just being blessed with the best actors and people on set where nobody complained. There was just no stress in that regard.
If anything, I'm the biggest whiny bitch on set.
He is, especially on part 2.
Yeah. I'm cold.
Part one, you were good.
Yeah. Part 2, I'm like, I'm tired. I need sleep.
Part 2 is tough, man. Part two is a really, really hard movie to make.
Yeah, especially the stuff that Lauren had to go through. It's like, my God, it's like I would feel bad, and I'll be complaining about, oh, I'm cold, and I look over at her, and she's wearing next to nothing. I'm like, I need to shut up.
Well, that's again, we touched briefly upon the Sienna character, but Dave is astonishing in this movie, and this is Art's. It's his show. I mean, again, he's dialed up to an 11. I mean, he does the things in this movie. Like, he's not even a concern of mine. Wasn't when I wrote the script. Like, I was very confident in Art the Clown in this movie and Dave playing Art. And he delivered, and Art the Clown's going to just blow people's minds again in this movie. But now it's like, this is really Sienna's movie. Like, she's the focal point of this film. And it's like, now bringing in this element and really shifting to your hero. It's like, well, what kind of effect is that going to have on the movie now? What kind of dynamic and whatnot? And when you see what Lauren does in this movie, it's what I'm most excited for people to see. And this is a character that I really, really love and I have a special place in my heart for. And what she did and the layers she brings to it and just physically what she had to go through. I mean, you've seen her in that costume. I mean, when you see the last, 35 minutes of this movie and what she has to go through in that costume and the environments, I mean, she's just going to blow your mind. Such an amazing character. I'm really excited to see
She's
her.
So good. She's so good. I mean, I would have times where we do a take together, and at the end of it, I'm just like, damn, you're good. You're so good.
Blessed.
I learned a lot from her. I loved it. I love to learn from actors, and so she was a very easy person to learn from.
Yeah, she's a pro, and I really think she's gonna blow up. She's gonna take off once this movie comes out and people see what she's capable of doing.
Excellent. Well, I'm really excited to see it. So good luck with the whole distributing logistic nightmare. I don't know how to say.
Yeah.
So
that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think with Terrifier, the first movie under your belt in your portfolio, I think it'd be at least I would hope that it will be the wheels will be greased up a little bit to have the second one come out. So, but
thanks, man.
So, David, thank you so much. David, for coming back. Damien, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it very much.
My pleasure, buddy. Thanks for having us, man. This was great.
Thank you very much. It's been great being back.
All right. And we'll see you geeks next time. I'm out of here. Thank you so much for listening in on this episode. If you'd like to follow me on all the social media stuff, we got the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. You could subscribe to the YouTube channel, as I will start putting out some movie reviews and first impressions. So, but all the links to those things and a few others can be found in the show notes of this episode, or if you just go to my Linktree, all those links are found right there. So, thank you so much again, and I will see you next time.